Good evening, and welcome to tonight's event. Well, it's a bit different from our usual meetings in the auditorium. We're excited to host this virtually this year. The presentation is intended to give you an overview of what to expect during the high school years. As I mentioned in my email, you can submit questions through the Google form. We'll answer all of the questions at the end of the presentation. This presentation will remain on the YouTube channel, and we'll also put the slideshow on the counseling website for you to view. Within the slideshow, there are some links if you want to take a look. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Lauren Moore, and I'm one of the two counselors for grades 7 through 9, and I'm also chair of the department. Also with us this evening are 3 administrators, Kyle Hosier, Mary Rose Joseph, and Jennifer Johnson. We thank them for joining us tonight. I'd like to take a minute before we start our presentation for my colleagues to introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Junko Matano. I work with the 7th, 8th, 9th graders, and my caseload is the first half of the last names of everyone's alphabet.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brookman. I'm a counselor for grades 10, 11, and 12, and I have the beginning part of the alphabet.
Hello, my name is Kevin Fleck. I also work with grades 10 through 12 at the high school, and I have the middle third of the alphabet.
Good evening, I'm Stephanie Fuentes. I also work with students in grades 10 through 12, and I have the end of the alphabet.
So let's get started.
Sure. First, I'd like to go through the high school graduation requirements with you. During our orientation night in the spring, we also share this information with you. Students will receive 1 credit when they complete and pass a full year course. When students complete a semester-long class, they will earn half a credit. English, 4 credits, which means a student taking English every year for 4 years will earn 4 credits in high school. Social studies, students need 4 credits, math, 3 credits, science, 3 credits, world language, 1 credit. For world language, New York State only requires a minimum of 1 credit for graduation. However, when a student is finding success in their world language class, they're encouraged to take a minimum of 2 years. Many students continue to take their foreign language class every year. Health, half a credit, which means taking health for half a year, 1 semester. Art and/or music, 1 credit. When we say music, students can take band and/or chorus, and we also offer various art classes throughout high school. Many students continue for more than 1 year. Electives, 3.5 credits. Electives will usually be fulfilled by students taking the 4th year of math or science classes. Anything that students take beyond required credits counts. Counselors will make sure that this requirement is met. And physical education, 2 credits. So in total, students will need to earn 22 credits by their senior year. You will see on the left side of the slide about Regents exams that students need to pass by the end of their senior year. Regents exams are New York State exams, and the tests are not created by Edgemont teachers. Students will take English at the end of 11th grade, Global at the end of 10th grade, for current 9th graders, Algebra 1 at the end of 9th grade, Science at Edgemont High School, typically after students complete Living Environment, which is biology, or Earth Science at the end of 9th grade. U.S. History and Government at the end of 11th grade. Current 10th graders have been exempt from last year's Regents exams since New York State canceled the exams due to the pandemic. Please keep in mind that teachers are very familiar with the Regents exams, and they will put aside class time to prepare the students, leading up to the June exam, which are given in school. Next, Ms. Moore will talk about course offerings.
Hi again. So we have a variety of courses available, particularly electives as the students enter high school. In 7th and 8th grade, they have a few options. In general, the older they get, the more flexibility they have with some of their coursework, in addition to the required courses that they will take. Elective choices are really there for students to pursue specific interests. Maybe something they are just intrigued by in the course title, something they think is a passion of theirs or already is. So we really encourage them to think about their elective choices and taking classes that they're really interested in. Every year, the counselors will meet with the children individually. It will start with group classroom presentations, which will give a general overview of what's available for the following year. And then we ask all the students to meet with their counselor individually. It's a great time for us to talk to them about, again, their specific interests, things, courses they might want to be taking, paths they might want to pursue in selecting their courses for the following year. It's also just a really nice opportunity for us to meet one-on-one with our students. So there's a variety of levels as the students get older. We continue with the levels available to meet students' needs, whether that be maybe a class that has a lab component. In addition, beginning in 10th grade, there are advanced placement courses, both AP and honors level courses, depending on the class. AP courses specifically are using the AP curriculum from the College Board, and they're required to take an AP exam at the completion of the course. Our honors level classes are a rigorous curriculum that our teachers have created. Most of these AP and honors level courses do require a recommendation. The criteria is outlined in the curriculum bulletin. It's a really helpful bulletin that is filled with descriptions of each courses, what's required, and again, this criteria for different class placements. It's available on our counseling website, which I have a link to in this slideshow, and it's also on our main website, and it's updated every year. We also have, just in thinking about courses, every year we'll talk about this, really making sure students find a balance. We want them to consider their rigor, their course load, and also what they do after school. We don't want students to spread themselves too thin and not have the ability to do extracurricular clubs, volunteer work, and other things because they're overloaded with the amount of work they're doing, but we do want them to challenge themselves where they can. So it's finding a balance, and that's something we talk to the students a lot about, and we encourage you to talk to your children about as well. Moving on to some program options. In 11th and 12th grade, there's 2 programs in addition to our electives and course offerings. The first is BOCES. This is an 11th and 12th grade vocational program. Your child would spend half of their day at Southern Westchester BOCES, taking the program of their choice, and the other half of the day they would be here at Edgemont taking courses. There's a variety of program options. For example, this year we have students in our EMT services, animal science, sound production, just to name a few. And we'll invite the students that are interested to come to an informational session during the course selection process in the winter time. We also have Phaedrus. Some of you might know this as A School. Again, it's for 11th and 12th grade students, and it's an alternative school that's here on campus. It's a small, personalized learning environment. Students will fulfill their humanities classes. They'll also have internship experiences. It's very team building focused. There'll be interest meetings for parents and students of 10th graders coming up typically in about February before the application process begins. Moving on to getting involved outside of the classroom. So again, we want students to have things that they're doing both in and outside of school. It's really important that they find that balance. There's lots of ways to get involved. So we have extracurricular clubs, even during the pandemic where there might not be as many sports as we normally offer. We do have sports options still. We had an activities fair. We really encourage students to get involved, pick a club. This year, many of them are virtual. Your child might also want to do some volunteer work outside of school. At an animal shelter, a hospital, a nursing home. We know right now, because of the pandemic, there might not be as many opportunities in person, but we encourage them to get involved or think about things they might want to do when we're able to be in person again. And it's really important to think about quality, not quantity. We'd much rather have a student do 2 things that they're really passionate about rather than doing 10 things and spreading themselves too thinly and not being able to do all of those things to the best of their ability. So again, you can always have your child come and talk to their counselor if they're thinking about getting involved, not sure, you can reach out to us as well. And next, we're going to move on to the transcript, which Ms. Brookman's going to take over.
Hi, so the transcript is a history of all of your child's high school level courses, which consist of final grades only. Quarter grades do not appear on a transcript. So if a student has one quarter that isn't as strong as their other quarters, no one sees the grade once it is final. The transcript also reports Regents exam grades and the student's cumulative grade point average, or GPA. GPAs are calculated after 2 complete years of high school coursework at Edgemont High School. For many, your students will receive their 2-year GPA once 10th grade is completed. The student's GPA will not change again until after 11th grade is completed. Edgemont's GPA scale is on a 5.0 weighted scale, which means that students can have a GPA higher than a 5.0. Our GPA scale is posted on our website. Many colleges will recalculate GPAs since there are so many variations, so that all of the applicants are on a similar scale. Keep in mind, behind every GPA is a story. 2 students can have the same GPA, but very different profiles. Colleges look to see that the student is challenging themselves in courses that are of interest to them while maintaining an appropriate balance. I will now turn it over to Ms. Fuentes.
Sorry. I was not able to unmute myself. So my job tonight is to talk to you about the role of the school counselor as we move through the remaining high school years. We're really fortunate as a junior, senior high school that our students are able to make that transition from junior high to high school with a counselor they already know really well. So in 9th grade, it's not, oh my goodness, it's now high school, and also wait, but I don't know who to go to. So they are well served by Ms. Matano and Ms. Moore for 9th grade as well. At the beginning of 10th grade, they will start working with Ms. Brookman, Mr. Fleck, or myself, who they will remain with through graduation. In order to make sure they are familiar with us before 10th grade starts, we are the ones who will host the classroom presentations about course selections. This year for 9th graders, we will introduce course selection options for 10th grade. And then following those presentations, we will have individual meetings with students about their academic plans for the coming year. So that way, when they start 10th grade, they're starting with some familiarity with their new counselor. Other things, so the counselors will continue to provide academic as well as social emotional support while also facilitating the process of planning for life after Edgemont. So I know that oftentimes families are interested in thinking about post-secondary plans. We know our students are very, well engaged in academics, and that is the main focus that they should have in 10th grade, other than health and wellness, is that their main job is to be students. So we want them to focus on being the best students that they can be, and then also engaging in life outside of the classroom. So I know we usually use the word extracurriculars, but I think that often suggests it has to be a very rigid, like a club or a sport or activity run by Edgemont, when in actuality, we want students really just to explore their individual interests outside of academics, perhaps, whether it's learning another language, whether it's service, whether it's teaching themselves an instrument or whatnot. So it could be creative writing. None of these things are more important than the other. It's just, how do you choose to spend your time? Students can also think about potential career interests, which Mr. Fleck will speak about more in a moment. Just to know what's to come in the following years. In 11th grade, we'll have a junior college planning night, which we have a panel of admissions experts who come and speak on different topics related to the college search and selection process. And our families can ask questions of these admissions professionals. We will then follow up typically February through May. Each junior will have an individual college meeting with a parent or guardian, or parents or guardians, and their individual counselor to speak specifically about their college search and selection process. We will also in May have a financial aid night where we will have families be able to hear from financial aid professional about the financial aid process and answer questions. The counselors will run a college writing workshop towards the end of the academic year for juniors so that juniors are equipped to go into the summer prepared to start drafts of any required college writing. In 11th grade, we suggest that students will think more globally about college. What kinds of demographics, maybe geography, size, location of school, general social vibe, if you will. Students will do visits, hopefully in person, if not virtually, and do general research about schools. As they enter 12th grade, we'll do a grade level meeting with seniors to review the application procedures. And students will set up meetings to talk to their counselor. In addition to all the typical things they talk to counselors about, we'll talk about having a balanced list of schools, reach, target, and likely. So they have, different levels of selectivity for admission. So they have wonderful options. We will offer to review any pieces of writing that may be required of them when they're applying, and just general support as they go through that process. So now you will hear from Kevin Fleck.
So thank you very much. So I'm going to speak about two pieces that relate to post-secondary planning. One would be standardized testing, and the other is a software tool that we use called Naviance. I'll start with standardized testing. It's an area in post-secondary planning where many questions tend to come up. So while it's not something that current 9th or 10th grade students need to be focused on preparing for with regards to testing such as SATs or ACTs, which I'll speak about in a moment, we do want to address some main general information about them. As Ms. Fuentes said, the main focus when we talk about college planning or post-secondary planning is how a student has performed throughout their time in high school. So their performance in classes, any academic trends, improvements year over year, those are always going to be the first things that any college or university may be looking at when reviewing an applicant. So standardized testing may play a role in the process. I say may because prior to COVID-19, there were already well over 1,000 schools in this country that are test optional, meaning students could choose to submit test scores if they wanted to, but if they did not feel standardized testing was an accurate indicator of academic success, the schools would say we do not require those as part of our admissions review. I mentioned that was pre-pandemic and there were well over 1,000 colleges. Our current seniors and seniors across the country, across the world are living in a very different world because that testing cycle was massively disrupted. So many more schools have adopted, if not permanent, at least temporary test optional policies. So the information I'm presenting presumes that some of these testing formats will mirror as we've seen in the past when our current freshmen and sophomores are approaching the time to take these tests. Typically where students will begin testing is with the PSAT. The PSAT is, as the name sort of implies, it's a practice for the main SAT examination. We offer to students here at Edgemont in the fall of junior year. They will be able to take the test here on campus. Some area high schools may also have their sophomore students do so. We are not a school that does that. For a couple of reasons. One, we prefer that students really take the first 2 years of high school to be focused on their academics and their extracurricular involvements to have that time and freedom to explore. And because this is just a practice exam, meaning that the only people who see the score is the student, their family, and their counselor. It is not seen by colleges or universities. It's a great tool to use to get sort of a baseline of how a student may perform when they sit for these standardized tests later on in the spring of their junior year, which is the typical time frame students will sit for these exams. The one piece with the PSAT that does have a little bit of a wider implication, very high scoring students who take the test in junior year, if they earn above a certain index score, may be deemed what's called a high scorer, which qualifies them to enter the National Merit Scholarship Competition. For the vast majority of students, it's only about the top 3% of students nationwide who qualify for national merit. So for the vast majority of students, this is a practice to see where they're already performing strongly in the areas of content that these tests cover. and where they may want to focus if they're planning to do some preparation or review before the SAT or the ACT. So the SAT and the ACT are the two standardized tests that if a college is using standardized tests for their admissions process, all four-year universities and colleges in the country accept the SAT or the ACT. There truly is no preference on any college's part of that one test is a better indicator of academic success than the other. If you go back to the foundation of these tests, it really sort of depended which one you took based on which part of the country you were living in. We're based here in the Northeast, obviously, as is the College Board organization. Students in this part of the country always took the SAT. The ACT is based in the Midwest, so you saw proliferation there. These days, and specifically at Edgemont, I would say we see many students gravitate towards one or the other, just sort of depending on their comfort level with each test. And again, there's some differences in scoring, and that information of a nice breakdown of the differences between the SAT and the ACT is available on the counseling section of the EHS website. Typically, when we recommend students take the SAT or the ACT, would be in the spring of their junior year. One question that often comes up is how often can I test? How often should I test? A general rule of thumb is to take these tests, and you can take one or the other. You do not have to take both. We see some students try both out, see which one feels better and focus on that. You do not need to submit scores from both examinations. Just one is fine. General rule of thumb, again, would be typically twice. Most colleges will superscore the SAT, and a larger number are starting to superscore the ACT. So taking it a couple times means that you get a benefit of the different subsections being combined to give you a higher overall score. So twice, maybe a third time if really necessary, not so much beyond that, because again, this is just one part of an overall application process. Some of you may be familiar with what are known as SAT subject tests. These, as the name implies, they are 1-hour exams that focus on one specific academic area. These tests are required only by a very small number of colleges in the United States. I think at last count, there was somewhere in the neighborhood of about 25 or 30 that required or very strongly recommended. There's a larger number that will also say, if you have them and submit them, we will look at them, but they're not required for an application review. But they focus on areas that allow a student to showcase their knowledge and ability in a particular field, such as science, biology, chemistry, US history. Typically, if a student is applying to a college that is requiring subject tests, they may ask for 2 subject tests. That tends to be the standard. There's only about one school that wants 3. You do not need to take 4 to 5, et cetera, because again, we would like to limit how often students feel the need to be taking these standardized tests. The question comes up, when is the best time to take a subject test? The recommendation is typically to take it following an AP or an honors level class where there is a subject test that corresponds. So for example, students who this year are in honors chemistry, the curriculum of our honors chemistry class this year is designed to prepare students to take perhaps a subject test at the end of sophomore year. If in the spring you've been performing very well in that course, it's a great conversation to have with Mr. Scally and also with your counselor to see would it make sense to take it at that time. Most students will typically take it following an AP class at the towards the end of junior year. The reason for that is the preparation that a student is doing to take the AP examination also prepares you for a subject test, because both tests are created and administered by the College Board. So it does not require extra preparation on a student's part. One piece I do want to mention with subject tests, I know we do have some current sophomores enrolled in AP European History, and you will take an AP examination in the spring. There is not a corresponding subject test in European history that's offered by the College Board. There is one that's offered in world history, but that does not necessarily correlate to the subject test between the two subjects, European history and world history. So that's just something you want to be mindful of. Students may, if they really want to take a history subject test, if they're going to take the AP US history class in junior year, that may be a good test to take at the end at that time. With that being said, I'll just move on to this last piece. Some of you may already be familiar or have heard of Naviance. Naviance is a web-based college and career search tool that we use here at Edgemont, as do many other high schools in this area and across the country. There are some great features available in Naviance. Typically, we've begun introducing students to Naviance in the spring of their freshman year, focusing really on their some career interest and personal interest inventories that allow students to start to identify areas of strength and interest and corresponding careers that they may want to explore further as they begin to think about what they want to do in the future. I said typically, this unfortunately was something that was disrupted due to the shutdown with COVID. So for spring of 2021, we're discussing how to get both freshmen and sophomore students online with Naviance to have access to some of these search features, again, to assist with the exploration. In 11th and 12th grade, we will introduce additional tools that will become very important. Specifically in 11th grade, the college search features become more widely available. There is data in Naviance relating to how students who may have applied to some schools that current students are interested in fared in the application process. But there's also some great search features to start to identify what are schools that might be a great fit for me in terms of academic programs that I may want to study. Are there particular sports or organizations on campus? Even things such as how near or far away from home a student feels they may want to be, things along those lines. So there's some great research tools that are available with that. And then in senior year, we also use Naviance as our application process and tracking tool. So as students are completing and submitting applications, the corresponding supplemental documents that Edgemont sends on their behalf, their transcript, letters of recommendation from counselors and teachers are sent electronically through that system, which allows us to keep a good eye on making sure that all necessary documents are received so students can receive an application decision depending on the time that they are applying. So there's a lot of great information that we will be introducing over the next several years with regards to this tool. And again, our website has some general overview information about Naviance as well. I'll turn it back now to Ms. Moore.
Oh, so as Mr. Fleck said, there's a lot on our website. So we really do encourage you to take a look. Again, I'll be, if you go to our main website under departments, you'll see the counseling department. We have, particularly under the college, tons of information, resources. The curriculum bulletin is there. We post articles, things that are helpful. Of course, our contact information. So we really do encourage you to take a look at the website and continue to use it through the years your children are in high school. In addition, I will be putting this slideshow up. There are some links if you noticed at one point I showed a sample transcript. And so this slideshow will go on our website under the meetings tab. All of our meetings are listed there, and we do always post the slideshows. And again, before we jump into question and answers, I did just want to mention that just to remind you that this will be available on the YouTube channel if you do want to take a look at it again. And also, of course, you can always reach out to your child's counselor if you have any additional questions beyond what we're going to answer now. So we will hop in now. So I'm going to exit the presentation. And we'll jump into questions. I did notice some of the questions were already answered because they were probably submitted prior to the presentation. So I'm going to skip over those. So the first one I'll start with is, if students are enrolled in AP courses, are they automatically registered to take the AP exam, or do parents need to individually register them for the exam and or pay for them to take it?
I can answer that. In terms of the AP exams, the students they're not automatically registered for it. They will be contacted by Jennifer Johnson with information about how to sign up. So you're not going to the College Board website. The school does facilitate the registration, but it is not automatic. But you will receive, information about that at the beginning of that course.
One of the questions was about the PSATs, which we spoke about. There was a question within that about the pre-ACTs. We don't offer the pre-ACTs here at Edgemont. Again, we offer the PSAT in the fall of junior year for all of the students. The next question is, what classes does your child need to pass in order to graduate from Edgemont? I can take that one. So Ms. Matano went over the graduation requirements. All of those classes need to be courses that they pass. So students need to pass 22 classes, including the ones laid out by Ms. Matano earlier in the evening. Our school ratings have gone down. They used to be a 9 out of 10, but are now showing up as a 7 out of 10. Does the drop in rating have an impact on kids getting into reputable colleges?
I'm happy to jump in with that a little bit. So one thing, and I think something about ratings and rankings comes up from time to time. It definitely comes up. I know when families begin exploring with colleges, it's understandable. Numbers are things that we can kind of wrap our head around and to try to get a sense of the quality. I had an opportunity to visit some universities in the UK several years ago, and I understood what it meant to be looking at rankings because I didn't know that much about those universities. With this high school piece, the colleges, our students fare very well in the college process. The colleges really do know Edgemont. They know that we are a rigorous college preparatory curriculum, that students who graduate from here are very well prepared to be successful on the college level, to do the work at the expectation the colleges at all levels of selectivity have. We do have a school profile that goes out with transcripts and supplemental materials when a student is applying to a college. That information, and you can see the school profile on the counseling section of the website as well as the main website, indicates overall strength of program, how our students fare on standardized tests, where our students have been accepted and matriculated to colleges over time. So they are very familiar with the strength of our academics. And with the ranking pieces, different rankings use different metrics, so they can vary significantly from one ranking system to another, and also from one year to another, just depending on various factors or elements that they are looking at or not looking at, depending on the system.
Great, thank you. The next question, what's the difference between the SAT and ACT? I think we kind of went over that. As Mr. Fleck mentioned, if you're interested, we do on the website have a section that does specifically lay out in more detail the difference between the SAT and ACT. And again, it's often students' preference for one test over the other in terms of style. The next question, can students fulfill the health requirement in 9th grade? You want to go for it?
Yes, students, if they are taking health for half a year, they will complete the health course, and that means that they have completed the requirement for graduation in terms of the health class. The majority of our students do take health in 10th grade. So we have few students who are able to take health in 9th grade, but once you take that course from 9th grade through 12th grade, students do fulfill the requirement.
And one thing Ms. Matano and I will talk to the students about before they enter 9th grade, so we did speak to students, is if they're interested in our Science Scholars Program, which is a 2.5-year program that begins in 10th grade, we do recommend that they take the health in 9th grade rather than taking it second semester senior year, which is when it would historically have fit in their schedule. So that's something we do talk to the students about. If your student's interested in Science Scholars and didn't take it, don't worry. We'll certainly take care of it before they graduate. The next question, what are the social studies requirements for grade 12?
I can answer that. In grade 12, the New York State requires that students take a half year of law and government and a half year of economics. Those can be covered at the regular level, at the Regents level, or at the AP level as AP macroeconomics and AP US government. Why am I? AP Government and Politics. I actually have been doing this for a while. So students do have to be recommended by their teacher for the AP classes, but just because they can either take one, they can mix and match with the appropriate recommendations.
Off of that, another person asked for AP macroeconomics. The understanding is it's 0.5 credits, which it is. It's a semester long class. So the question was, how long is the course, because the AP exam is in May?
The AP, the course is, the course can be first semester or second semester, both for government and politics or macroeconomics. And when it's first semester, the students complete in January, and they just have to review the material until May. And same thing with if it's government and politics. There are pros and cons to first semester and second semester. First semester, they have more time in the classroom and second semester, it's closer to the test date, but they don't have a full semester because the May test is before the semester ends.
And final question. So if anybody has any last questions, please do submit them now. There's actually two more. I spoke too soon. What can we do to prepare for college in 9th grade? I can kind of start it off. I mean, I would say in 9th grade, the real college process and exploration starts, as Ms. Fuentes said, in 11th grade. In 9th and 10th grade, we really want the students to adjust to high school. As Ms. Fuentes said, focusing on their academics, their student skills, also getting involved, whether that be clubs, sports, activities, different ways to kind of connect and build their leadership skills. Those are all really important things. We really don't want the students to be overthinking that process at such a young age. We want them to be thinking about perhaps areas of interest that might be something they want to pursue moving forward, but it's okay if they change their mind. And we want them to think about all different things. They're really getting to know themselves developmentally. So we don't really ask or want them to be thinking specifically about college. I don't know if anybody else wants to add on.
I also want to add that, for our 9th graders, colleges do say that they understand that it's their first year of senior high school. So it's a year where they learn different things, different skills, and they're still young. So we want them to really do their best in various areas, especially academics, but also know that there's going to be some ups and downs. And colleges do recognize that they're only freshman students.
And one thing I would like to add to that as well, kind of chiming in with what Ms. Moore and Ms. Matano said, is, when we think about high school in and of itself is a very important experience. It's a very important time in people's lives. The things that happen, the changes and growth that occurs between the ages of 14 and 18 are very significant. And I understand certainly that for students coming into freshman year and feeling like this is setting me up for the future, that feels like it carries a lot. But as Ms. Brookman said when she was speaking about the transcript, you could have two students who on paper have the same numerical value in their GPA, but have two very different stories behind them of how they got there. And in my mind, high school is about starting to understand and really learn, what is your story? What are your strengths? Where have you struggled? Where have you tried something out and realized this isn't for me? And I learned that by realizing this isn't what I want to do anymore. I had a student years ago who he, in freshman year, was a serious fencer, and by senior year, he was leading hip hop dance. He just found a new passion at 16, and it was a great story, all because it was authentic. He was finding his authentic self as he grew through his time in high school. And that's what colleges want to know. They're looking to admit individuals. They're looking to admit people, young learners to their campuses. So trying to keep in mind, as easy it is to say on this side of the Zoom, but this is a time to explore, to try things out, to try something, have it maybe not work out, and maybe you fail, but you learn from that and you grow. And that sets you up not just in the process, but also being successful once you've graduated from Edgemont and go on, whether it is college, career, military, whatever a student is going to choose to do with the next phase of their life, to learn from the experiences that they have now. And that's one of the best things that I think any student can be doing.
Great, thank you. The next question is, what are options for electives?
I can take that. When students progress throughout high school, they have more and more choices available to them, just as Ms. Moore explained, where we have different program options such as BOCES or the Phaedrus School. They also have options going into courses such as nutrition or computer science or AP statistics or painting and drawing, photography. So we have a tremendous amount of offerings for our students that are not necessarily required by New York State, but we hope that they participate in so that they can explore other options in different areas of study. These are all posted in our course offering section on our website, where it's the curriculum guide is posted. So students can review and see what courses are offered there.
The next question, what regions do we take in 9th grade? So as Ms. Matano said, in 9th grade, students will take their science region. So they'll take either their earth science or living environment regions. And beginning with this year's 9th grade, all students will take the algebra regions in 9th grade as well. Our current 10th graders, some are taking it as 10th graders if it is offered in June. Again, depending on what the state decides. The next question is, when do we start to get credits and where do we find out?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, what goes on to your high school transcript is typically starting in 9th grade, with the exception being for a student who maybe moves into the district from another school, having done some advanced high school work, or their school offered high school level courses, maybe in 8th grade. And world languages. That's really students who start world languages with that 7th, 8th grade combo will receive a credit once they've completed the full 7th and 8th grade combined is 1 full credit at the high school level. So, yeah.
How do we access the unweighted GPA?
So Edgemont actually only does calculate a weighted GPA currently. So the 5.0 scale with weighting given if a student completes an honors or an AP level course. So that is the GPA that we use when students get access to Naviance and the college functionality. I mentioned that there's some information specific to Edgemont and previous Edgemont students, obviously without names attached to it, but how students performed applying to certain colleges in terms of their GPAs, test scores, et cetera. So that's the information that we use in our internal systems, but we do not calculate an unweighted GPA for the transcript.
What I can say is that on the school profile that's been mentioned a few times this evening, that we do have our grading scale, and it breaks down the grading scale based on if the class receives weight. Honors and AP classes receive the same amount of weight. So a class that doesn't have an honors or AP designation receives 1 weight, and so you can actually calculate it on your own with the grading scale, and you can always talk to the students counselor around that time if this seems confusing to you. In general, I would suggest not. I know that this is going to again sound easier from this side of the Zoom. Thanks for coining that, Kevin. But it's easier for me to say, but I wouldn't hyper focus on a GPA, either weighted or unweighted, because when students are applying to colleges, colleges often recalculate a GPA based on their own criteria. They may weight more recent years heavier. They may strip some electives if you're, if they're looking at really how is this student done with core academics. And again, as every GPA has a story behind it, they're going to look at trends. If ninth grade was a little bit weaker, but as the student matured and started to kind of see more of the value of education and really began to reach their highest potential, and there's an upward trend, that would be taken into consideration. If there were circumstances, say like a global pandemic, and they had a weaker year, that would be taken into consideration. If there was an injury, so the GPA doesn't really represent much when you consider that there are 25,000 high schools in the United States with different ways of grading students. It's really the high school transcript, the choices of rigor, the choices of progression of the choices of electives, and how students have done kind of over time. So.
The next question, switching gears a little bit, is when do clubs start? So most clubs have actually started. We had an activities fair a couple weeks back. Not to worry if your child didn't make it to that. They can still join a club. The clubs are mostly posted and advertised in the Daily Bulletin, which is found under the quick links. We also have the activities guide available on the website. So if your child's interested in joining a club, they can also email the faculty advisor of that club. The advisors are available in that guide to find out when they're meeting and or get the Google Meet link. But we do encourage you to be checking for your child to be checking the Daily Bulletin for clubs. The next question is how to be in an AP or honors course.
I'm happy to take that. Honors and AP courses, the additional honors AP courses become available beginning sophomore year, and more become available as you go into junior and senior year. There are criteria that students must meet. Those tend to vary by subject. If you look in our curriculum bulletin, which as Ms. Moore mentioned, is on the counseling website, this criteria is also listed on each of the department's website pages, but in the curriculum bulletin, towards the back, it does spell out for each department what criteria they look at to be recommended for an honors or an AP course. It's a multitude of factors. For example, a student currently in ninth grade who perhaps may want to see if they meet criteria for honors English in sophomore year, typically is high performance in ninth grade English in terms of grades, in terms of interest, strength of writing. The English department asks interested students to sit for a qualifying essay that they will assess, and then in consultation with the teacher, and then the department makes those recommendations. So as I said, each department's criteria is a little bit different, but they spell them out both at the back of the curriculum bulletin, and the departments have that information on their specific pages on the website.
I just also want to add that I think it's really important that the student speaks to the teacher that they currently have to talk about increasing their rigor for the following year, to talk about expectations, what's manageable, what's not. Again, it's finding that right balance, but they're with their classroom teacher every day, all year. So it's really important for the student to have that conversation with their current teacher to talk about increasing rigor.
I also, just to add to that really quickly, it's more in depth about finding balance. I always start course selection presentations by saying, it's not, it's very, it can be very intriguing when your teacher recommends a level change or a class, and just because you receive a recommendation doesn't mean you have to follow it. You won't disappoint your teachers. It's sometimes we just have to make difficult choices because it's the tendency is to say, oh, what can I do? What's the highest level of this that I can do, which would be fine if you were doing that one thing in a bubble. But I always tell students you have to take into account your full course load. What are your extracurricular commitments? What are your family commitments? What other things take up your time? What do you want to have time to enjoy? And are you getting enough sleep? I know they'll never get enough sleep, but at least reasonably enough sleep and able to remain healthy. So, I think it's really important to consider each of those decisions while looking collectively at the whole piece.
All right, and we have one final question. And then we'll wrap things up. Is there weight given to the combined English social studies class in sophomore year? And how does that class contribute to credit? So I can take it. There is a 10th grade class, if you're not familiar with it, called Global Perspectives. It's fulfills both the students' English and social studies. So they receive a credit for both of those courses. It's not a weighted course. It's not considered an AP or honors level course. So it's weighted normally in their GPA, but it's a great course and many of our students enjoy it. And you'll receive, again, 2 credits for that course. All right, so I think we have come to the end. I don't see any more questions coming in. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. If you are watching this at a later date and have questions, please feel free to reach out to your child's counselor. And or if you're watching now and just have a question that comes up comes up soon. We're available. Please do encourage your child to come and check in with us. If they have any questions as well, we're really here to support them, particularly through what we know is a challenging year for many. So we wish you all good health and a great holiday season.